What is up, sexy people? It is Dave, it is Duncan, back from Metal Epidemic for another album review. For this review, Duncan and I have been checking out the new album from German post-metal Blackgaze band Heretoir. The band's new album, Solastalgia, will be released on September 19th via AOP Records. Just 2 years on from their stunning full-length Night Sphere, which was followed by headlining tours through Europe and Latin America and appearances at festival A-listers such as Resurrection Fest, Party San and Summer Breeze, Heretoir are back with another crushing masterclass in melancholy and world weariness. The world is getting worse and worse, but Heretoir are at the peak of their creativity. Perhaps there is a coincidence between external and internal factors. Music is a channel for processing daily experiences. Emotions and words have to come out, otherwise our heads would burst. And as corny as it sounds, this band has a kind of cathartic factor, especially live. Our shows are little islands in the dreary world of everyday life, Null explains. The philosophical concept of solastalgia can be described as a form of emotional or existential distress caused by negatively perceived environmental change. Solastalgia describes the grief over the loss of the natural world, the environment, and our concept of home, the band explains. The very existence of such a term brutally exposes our alienation from this planet, easy prey for these uncompromising analysts of human misery. Heretoir has always been pure emotion, the pain of modern life set to music, and yet the desperate beauty of solastalgia proves to be an unlikely source of discomfort. Having grown from a solo outlet for David Conrad's musical vision to a tight-knit trio over the years, the current incarnation of Heretoir has proven to be their strongest yet. It helps the band immensely that the three of us have established good communication and division of roles. Everyone is involved in songwriting in one way or another and has various other tasks as well. Bonded by the endless contradictions of modern life and the firm belief that empathy is the only thing that can truly keep us safe, the three have created an album so full of life that it can be overwhelming at first. It hurts, but sometimes it has to. Recorded and mixed by David Deutsch and Justin Felder at 1408 Studio in Hanover, Germany, the band returned to the place where they had already found success with Wastelands and Night Sphere. Why change a working system? After that, Solastalgia was mastered by Lasse Lamert of LSD Studio. So, I have been aware of these guys since their previous album, Night Sphere, which was reviewed on the Metal Epidemic website by one of the other guys. I think
you just pulled rank on this one.
Yoink. It scored, I think the last album on the website scored a 3.5 as far as I remember, and it was like a fairly positive review. I think from what I remember, the main critique was that it was a really good kind of mood piece, had great atmosphere, but was maybe kind of lacking in parts that made you say, I need to hear that again, which I don't disagree with, to be honest. I thought the last album was really good, but it maybe was lacking in some kind of bigger moments to kind of stick with you afterwards. So I was interested to hear where this would go, like what we were going to get on this new album from Heretoir. And like I feel like from the get-go here, I feel like this one starts with much bigger ideas. From the first minute, to be honest, I actually when I put the album on, I stopped it about a minute and a half in. And I was like, hold on.
Good headphones.
Let's get the big headphones. Because there's an instant wow, like the sound is kind of huge.
There's a transitional moment where it just levels up quite a bit,
yes,
within seconds.
Yeah, and like not just like in a production value, but the actual kind of magnitude of the music for me was much kind of bigger and broader than it was on the previous album. They've definitely opened up a kind of like a more kind of dynamic kind of soundscape on this album. It's one of those albums that like kind of just fills your headphones, which is really cool. So I definitely recommend good set of headphones on for this. It does make the difference to just kind of help you immerse yourself in the album. And it is a highly immersive album, even more so than Night Sphere was. But I liked that the Ashen Falls, which is the opening track, it kind of like just takes a little bit of time to kind of build into it. They drag you through like this kind of like onslaught of blast beats and like kind of huge kind of post metal grooves and like kind of progressive kind of twists in there. And then about the kind of 3.5 minute mark, the chorus lands and it just takes the track to this other place. Like that kind of purge of like melodic emotion just really like kind of pulls you into the track. I thought it was a really, really nice moment on that opener, but I loved it. Like musically, it was still kind of like kicking and screaming in the background. There's still like very harrowing riffs going on. There's bits of blast beats. It's got a little bit of touch of the kind of Garia about it. A little bit of Celeste as well, kind of French post black metal band. And it doesn't necessarily like just drop all the heavy stuff because the vocals have shifted. So I thought that was quite a cool idea. To give the track emotion, but also still keeps that energy there as well, which was really good. I almost like I don't know about you, but I almost expected track 2 to kind of like ramp up a notch. Like I was expecting with the way the Ashen Falls closes.
Yeah,
it felt like it set up something more extreme. But like the band kind of go in the opposite direction.
Like, hell no.
Yeah, no. On the Season of Grief, it actually opens acoustic guitars and like clean vocals, and like it's like, all right, okay, this is not what I was expecting. This is something more in a kind of like I don't know, Harakiri for the Sky or Alcest, or even there's a little kind of like bit of a almost Katatonia kind of vibe in there as well. And it took me a couple of minutes. I was like, all right, okay, this is like different. I wasn't really sure like where we were going, but the more the track went on, I realized just how much this band have kind of leveled up in the songwriting department. This is a 10-minute track 2.
Oh yeah.
But fuck me, does it not like really showcase the band's ability to transition like from these like really serene and subtle clean moments into something really just fiery and like kind of charred sounding. It's a really kind of stunning transition on that track. The way they use the guitar leads, it's almost like a string section on the track. Like it has that level of like grandeur to it, the way they've kind of placed these leads in, but really cool. That vocally unreal. Like not only does David Conrad sound incredible here, but his choice of melody, it's not just a good melody, but it makes you feel things as well. And as I said, this might be 10 minutes long, but I actually didn't look at the clock once during that track. I was really like locked into it. Even the bits of like percussion and there's like a bit of I think it's a flute at one point as well. It's kind of like nicely kind of nestled into the track, but I'm not big on the kind of folksy stuff sometimes, but I thought it was done in a really nice way. It's not distracting. It's done in a way that it doesn't feel whimsical, if you know what I mean. Like it kind of just adds to the kind of essence of the track. But if you think like Heretoir have kind of peaked like early in the album, then think again, because You Are the Night brings something a little bit more left field for Heretoir actually. This had a almost kind of more modern kind of slant on it. Like there was like a touch of something almost kind of metalcore-ish, or like post-hardcore, that kind of in that with that kind of realm. That the riffs are chunkier, a nice blend to them. The bass drums are heavy, kind of accenting the riffs they've got, but it doesn't veer too far off, and into the wilderness that that kind of Heretoir character is lost. It still feels very grand and layered. The chorus is huge, and again, it's very cathartic in delivery. His screaming tone is visceral, but it's not in like a thin kind of scratchy way, like when you get a lot of kind of black metal stuff that kind of reaches that register that feels kind of lacking in something. This has got depth to it. It still feels really powerful, and it's a great track to show like a really clever stylistic kind of shift, on the album, and it does it in a way that stops the album becoming kind of predictable, because like it was something again I didn't really see coming from the band. It's not something they've really kind of ventured too much into before, the kind of more modern side. So I thought it was really cool. And I think the genre blending on this album does make it a much more interesting listen. That like kind of issue I mentioned earlier about not having enough, to come back to on the previous album.
Yeah.
Didn't feel that was an issue here. I feel like there's a lot of moments on this release that do grab your attention. Even the stuff that isn't necessarily that heavy, like there's the opening section on Inertia. Really interested. It's something I could only maybe describe it as like something you might hear on like a Maybe She Will album. Like it's got these kind of like post-rock kind of traits blended in with a bit of piano. The drums have got a nice kind of like a reverse reverb kind of thing going on that makes it sound all kind of choppy. And again, the lead work, killer again. It's got that kind of string kind of feel to it, the way they kind of feed it in. And the way that track unfolds is awesome. The vocals are really emotional in a almost kind of like post-hardcore type way for me, which I loved. But the layering of the vocals I thought was really impressive. That blend of like clean melody, the tonal melody, it sounds huge on the track. I love the way the piano part from Inertia kind of felt connected to the following track, which was Rain. It was almost kind of continual the way they did it. And you're done in a very kind of poignant way to end the first half of the album as well. And the band just kind of continue to expand and explore on, the Blackgaze and the kind of post-rock kind of roots they've got, making it, even more cinematic than before, but still like kind of peppering it with those new ideas and twists. But I think more importantly, they've delivered for me probably their most emotionally kind of resonant album to date. I think this is a much more rewarding album. It's also a long album, just over an hour, which it may be.
It's just over an hour if you include the cover.
Yes.
Which I think we need to talk about at some point.
Yes, I will talk about the cover. I think like that kind of hour runtime might be off-putting for some people. It might look like it's quite a hill to climb, but it is one of those albums you do have to kind of carve out some time for. I feel like it does work better as a full piece. I don't think you get the same experience listening to just like snippets or individual tracks from it. I think the payoff is better listening to it as a whole album. I feel like I kind of lost count of how many really like kind of climactic moments this album had, and that I kind of got lost in. Dream Gatherer might be like one of the most satisfying listens I've had. Just like such a euphoric track, and some albums are lucky enough to have like one moment like that, but I feel like this album has, it continues to kind of fire them out. It's almost kind of like a greatest hits almost. That Burial, the chorus on Burial, like I was when I was listening, I was like, if you lifted that chorus out of Burial, you could drop it into like a newer day Architects album, and you probably wouldn't even bat an eyelid. Like it's got that kind of like anthem kind of feel to it. It's very full, but the difference being Heretoir deliver it with much more feeling and much more nuance. It doesn't come across generic or forced like it would be on an Architects album. But the end of the album, I think the end. Sorry, shots fired. The end of the album is where I had a couple of questions.
Interesting.
Because the Same Hell 2025 feels like a closing track, right?
Yes, it does, Dave.
It's very,
almost that was the original end of the album.
Yeah, stripped back, very clean, quite ambient, soft vocals, lots of synths, just very serene and calming, and it fades out nicely. Then we get another track called Metaphor.
Yeah,
which is an acoustic track.
Yeah, like soon as so I don't know if this was in the press or anything like that, like the PR with it, but I when I was listening to this, when the kind of folksy guitar-y kind of hooky thing coming, I was like, that I fucking know that like straight away, and I refuse to use the internet at times, Dave, where I could save my brain, and it suddenly dawned on me, and I'm confused.
Yeah, it wasn't until like when the guitars came in, I wasn't really thinking about anything. It was the vocal that came in. I was like,
yeah.
that sounds different. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's something strange about that, but it sounds like someone else or something else. That kind of started the vocal. It was the vocal that kind of started to reveal like the what was behind this track. And then obviously afterwards, I was like, wait a minute, this is not a Heretoir. What's going on here? It is in fact from one of my probably my favorite In Flames album, Reroute to Remain.
That's my favorite as well, which will get half the internet hating us and the other half telling us that the better stuff came after. So
fuck them. On the In Flames album, it is one of the kind of light track. It is probably the lightest track on that album. There's
it's
no
the
like
least interesting song on
it is, yeah.
Right.
It's no like there's no heavy guitars or screamy vocals. And the Heretoir version of it is in a kind of similar vein, really. They've kept it quite gentle and poignant, I suppose. I don't know about this track. I don't know why. I think it might be something vocally, maybe that's connected to the album.
He's like you've just listened to almost an hour of the vocals, and then you get to this and you hear him doing what I would class as a karaoke representation of.
Yeah.
Is him like 2 seconds away? UK of a certain age reference coming up here, but I expected Matthew Kelly to be standing there going that tonight. Cunt from Heretoir is going to be Anders from In Flames.
Yeah,
when it comes at the smoke.
it's
a weird impression. It's slightly off-putting, and the track is not dissimilar enough from the original to merit being on here because it doesn't hold any of the intrigue, any of the majesty, or any of the gravitas of anything that comes in the preceding 59 minutes to it.
Yeah, I agree. It just felt like a weird kind of add-on to the end of the album that didn't really make much sense to me, and didn't feel really connected to the rest of the album. And I kind of like, I've listened to this album a good 3-4 times, but I kind of just look at it as like a bonus track now, like rather than the final track of the album. Just I don't know how the band see it, like if it is like supposed to be part of the album or if it's just like an extra, but I don't feel like it was needed personally. That aside, production on this is killer. I think the production's got plenty of weight in those heavy parts. The guitar tone is powerful, but also a really nice kind of warmth to it as well. I feel like sometimes like kind of post-Black albums do tend to be rather cold in the production, which I get. Black metal tends to be, but this album is much more inviting. It's never clinical or harsh. It's very, very kind of fluid sounding, smooth, and by far I think it's the biggest sounding album this band have had to date. I was not expecting this to hit as hard as it did. I feel like these guys have hit a level I didn't know they had in them, and in comparison to the previous album, I think I'll come back to this one way more than the last album. Is it too long? Possibly. I do feel like as I start to get towards the last few tracks, I start to feel a little bit fatigued. The cover track is not needed, but even without that, I feel like ideally this should be probably a 9-track album if it was up to me, but that's just me. Duncan, what are you thinking? What did you make of this?
It's too long, and that's not to say. I think when you're in the songs feel appropriate length.
They do.
At no point during any of the self-contained tracks you're listening to here, do I feel like anything is overly repetitive or derivative of itself. I actually think that it's very well composed, it's very well measured, and it's hauntingly beautiful to listen to. Like the level of atmosphere, like the synth work that exists in the background as a layer, just at this almost like cling film, just a very translucent layer, just to raise things up is really, 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 really well done. And credit to the people behind the production and the mixing as well to hold that measure in the mix and the master. I think it's when it comes to the entire length of the album, that's where it becomes an issue. Notwithstanding we've spoken about. Let's just in terms of the conversation here, metaphor doesn't exist in terms of the conversation. I do feel it's too long. I feel like It's so grand and it's so huge that I think actually the length of it at times could be detrimental to some of the more remarkable moments in there, because there are so many of them, which is great. We wanted that, and the reviewer who reviewed it previously said when there wasn't enough. Well, there's plenty on here,
Yeah.
but like there is so many of them now over such a long period of time that they do slightly lose a little bit of their wonder. And musically, it's an incredibly put together album.
Yeah.
The dynamics are wonderful. Like, you go from really soft, very, very quiet, very vulnerable moments here to, like you were saying with a track like You Are the Night, where you get this kind of very jaggy, very metallic, like super tight driven kind of like sections that really hit you hard with much more aggressive, like almost kind of black and death vocals that sit over it. I mean, they just seem to have gears that they're very, very comfortable switching into.
Yeah.
And that is satisfying as well, because, like you say, it kind of circumvents your expectations in between tracks, where you think, well, that's a really heavy song, so the next song's going to be a light song, and they don't always do that, and vice versa. When they finish in a quiet moment, they'll sometimes go like into something which is deliberately quieter to raise it back up. And that's just a confidence in songwriting. You can clearly hear that they've crafted their chops over years, and they're very comfortable with the space and sound they have. And also, the record label is very comfortable with them doing their vision of what they do. You can tell there's very little fuckery here. Right, give us a single. You know what I mean? Like, most of the songs here are very, very long in length. Very difficult to do that. So I thoroughly enjoyed that. I think the vocal performances are absolutely stunning on this. The melody is just chef's kiss good. I mean, it's really, 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 really well put together. And you mentioned it before. The Architects, on their best day, don't get close to some of the stuff that's on here. It's just like it's captivating. It's interesting. It's, you know, it does genuinely make you think, and there is a sense of kind of ennui and melancholy that exists throughout the music, where I get those somber tones that work their way through. You know, it does get me. Like, the songs are titled in such a way when actually when you listen to them, like, they are painting pictures. You're brought back to the themes. So it's a wonderfully put together album. Ultimately, I come down to my biggest complaint is I think it is too long. I do also think if you're a fan of the band, that's not an issue. This is my first experience of them, so I'm going in 2 feet first here, and to me, it's long. And yeah, lastly, and I'm going to mark it down because of this, I do not like the cover at the end at all. It's not a track that I like from. It's still my least favorite song from an album, which I think is almost flawless. On this album here, which is now my least favorite song on an album, which is pretty flawless. So yeah, so a head scratcher. And maybe there's something, like you said, maybe there's something in the lyrical content.
Yeah.
Which, you know, makes them think of this. Maybe In Flames captured the theme of that, or maybe they just really like that song. But the emulating the vocalist is bizarre to the point of head scratching, and very off-putting, because it's the last thing you hear when you listen to this album. So it's the last taste that you get of this, and in the same way that you're watching the greatest movie you've ever seen, and then the ending happens and it shits the bed at the end, and you're kind of like, well, that was a long way to get to this. I kind of feel the same here. It's a long way to. So I feel that when the album is released and I officially download it and remove the promotional copy that I get, I will probably not download the last track.
Yeah.
And I will just keep it as is, because I think self-contained tracks 1 through 10 are really, really good. If, like I said before, it's a tad long.
Yeah. Okay, final thing, scores for this new release from Heretoir. I feel like this is the best thing they've done, and I think it's a big step up from that last album where it was good, but it was just lacking those big memorable moments. This has tons of those, and you know, all kind of different in their own way as well, which I thought was really cool. I love the little additional styles they've added in here, the little kind of nuances of kind of metalcore and stuff that appeared in here. Really good. Vocally, it's killer. Production is excellent. My only kind of gripes are it's a little bit long, and the bonus cover track was not needed for me. That aside, I'd probably go 4.5. I think the album is that good. I'll definitely come back to this, minus the cover song. What about yourself? What are you thinking?
It's a 4 from me.
4 for you? Okay. Yep. Heretoir. The new album drops on September 19th on AOP Records. Check out the links to the band, the pre-order. I'll stick a single in there so you can have a listen, see what you think. Happy to hear your thoughts and opinions on it. That is a review. Thanks for checking out. We'll be back with another review very soon, but until then, take care. Speak to you soon.
Bye, everyone.